Okay, so we had a couple more people wondering how we make our deer neck, and we figured the easiest way to show you is just to make a video. So we're gonna have a little video here showing you guys what we do for a deer neck. We got one here. It's not really that big. I'll get the weight on it, but we got this out maybe 3 hours ago to thaw out a little bit, just so you can get like the saran wrap and everything off of it. So yeah, there we go. Almost 4 1/4. Let's see. Yeah, almost 4 1/4 pounds. So if you have a bigger or smaller neck, you can just adjust the recipe according to that. But we're gonna get this opened up, and then we're gonna cut it with a Sawzall, and I'll show you. We got a blade here. A quick note here: we use a metal cutting blade because a wood cutting blade leaves too many bone shards in the meat, and we're using a 9-inch blade with 14 teeth per inch here. It's easiest to cut when it's frozen, so that's why we don't thaw it out all the way. So we'll get this unwrapped and show you guys how we're going to cut it over the trash can here. Alright, so we're just going to cut this into 4 pieces here. We're going to see how much of it we can actually get on camera. But obviously be a little careful because it's a little tricky. You go push that down. Yep. All right, go. Okay, well, we didn't realize until afterwards that didn't really pick up much of that on camera. But just gonna cut that with the Sawzall, and we usually save that blade and we only use it for meat, so we don't chip the paint on it or anything. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna rinse off all this little like bone dust down there. Just like cool water will do it, and just rub your hand on there. You'll see when you're getting that to come off. Okay, so these are still frozen, so we're just going to put them in a bowl for right now and let those thaw out a little more. It'll probably take maybe 4 to 6 hours, and we'll show you what we have left after that. Okay, while this is thawing out, we're just going to get a crock pot going here, warming up. We'll do 1 quart of broth. I mean, you can do beef broth or game broth if you have that. Here we go. And I've got 2 cups of water here. Alright, now we'll add a tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon of rosemary, half a tablespoon of onion powder, half a tablespoon of garlic powder, and we'll do another half of pepper. And we'll add 2 bay leaves in here. Cool. And we'll just cover that up, let that get up to a boil while we are still thawing this out. And once this gets thawed out, we'll show you what we have left. Took about 4 hours, and it's thawed out now. So we're gonna salt and pepper this, and we're gonna sear it on a pan. So we'll do this. Get these in a little bit of oil here so we can get a sear on all those sides. And as it gets brown, then we'll pull it off and put it in the crock pot. And while that's searing, we can go ahead and chop up a few onions here. Okay, now that we've got it browned on all of our sides here, and that's what you're really looking for, is that little bit of brown coloring. We're going to load up the crock pot here. And once we finish searing in the pan, we can dump our onions in here and just cook a little bit of the seasoning off the bottom. Okay, now that our onions have cooked a little bit here, we'll go ahead and add that to our crock pot. There we go. And we're looking to cover that meat almost all the way with this liquid here. So it looks like we do have enough liquid. So we'll close this up here, and we're gonna let that simmer until it gets tender, and that kind of depends on the meat you have and how hot the liquid is. So I'm thinking this is gonna be 4 to 6 hours again, but we'll let you know when we figure out when it's tender. Okay, so it's been about 5.5 hours. So I'll show you what we're looking for here. Just looking to see that meat's getting tender and it's coming right off there. You're looking for something like pulled pork where that just comes right apart. So we'll get that all here and get that cooling down, and then we'll pick the meat off the bones here. Also, it's important to note, if it's not this tender, then you should cook it longer. Okay, so now we got our meat separated here. And if that's sticking to the bone a little bit while you're trying to take that off, you can put that in the crock pot again for a few hours, and that should soften up a little bit. We also strained our broth here, so what we can do is we can freeze this, and then next time we make deer neck, we can just use this instead of making our own. But once you get it here and you have the shredded meat, you can do whatever you want with this from here out. But what we usually do is like a buttered deer neck, like a Indian recipe, and we can show you guys what that looks like here now. So now for the buttered chicken, we're going to cut up some onions. Normally you can do like 2 or 3 normal sized onions, but we only have some small ones here, so we're going to do a couple of those. We're going to cut these up and we're going to saute them up, and then we'll keep going from there. Okay, so now we can add about 2.5 or 3 tablespoons of butter to our pan. Once we get that melted, we'll add our onions, and we'll get these cooked up. While those onions are cooking, we'll go ahead and add some of our dry ingredients together here. And we'll start with, I'm not really going in order here, but we'll go 2 tablespoons of chili powder. Then we can add 2 teaspoons of coriander, ground coriander powder here. And we can add 2 teaspoons of salt. And we'll do 3 teaspoons of cumin. And we'll add 3 teaspoons of Garam Masala. 2.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. And we'll do 1.5 teaspoons of ginger powder. And we'll do 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Okay, and then we'll get 2.5 cups of half and half here on the side. And you can use heavy cream too, but we're going to use half and half today. A 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes that we'll have with this too. Now that our onions are mostly cooked through, we can add our can of crushed tomatoes. After we get that mixed around a little bit, we'll go ahead and add all of our seasonings in here. Okay, now that everything's mixed around a little bit, go ahead and we're going to add this to a blender and blend that up. Alright, so now we're just looking to blend this up until we get a little more smooth sauce here. Okay, now that we're all blended up, we're going to go ahead and dump this sauce back into the pan. And what I usually do is I use the heavy cream or the half and half to clean this out and dump it in here so we can save as much of that as we can. And we'll dump that into the pan. And we'll add it all in here, and we're just going to mix this up pretty well and get that up to a simmer. Alright, now that our sauce is all mixed up, we can go ahead and dump our meat in here, and then we'll just get this all mixed together and warmed up, and then it'll be ready to serve. Now once our meat's all warmed up, we can just add that to some rice here, and we're all set. And some people like to add hot sauce on here or sour cream, but you can do whatever you want with that.